Hey guys, my name is Christian Malganis and welcome to episode 2 of Ray Chat. It is Saturday, November 20th, 2010, and today we're going to be talking about Resto Druids come Cataclysm. One of the most common questions I get in-game and on my YouTube channel is how do I spec my tune? Well, as a Restoration Druid come Cataclysm, you want to spec this, 1, 0, 35. It's ideal to skip over a few talents in the Restoration tree in order to get the maximum healing output possible. The talents that you want to skip over are Perseverance, Fury of the Storm Rage, Malfurion's Gift, Nature's Ward, and Nature's Cure. Now, your raid leader might need you to pick up Nature's Cure, so if they do want you to pick it up, make sure they tell you before the raid. Another common question that I always receive is how do I glyph my tune? Blizzard introduced Glyphs in Wrath of the Lich King as a way to maximize your healing or DPS output. The new tier of Glyphs, which is the third tier, as previously we only had 2 tiers of Glyphs, is called Prime Glyphs. As a Restoration Druid, the Prime Glyphs that you want to use are Glyph of Swiftmend, Glyph of Rejuvenation, and Glyph of Lifebloom. Your major Glyphs, you want to use Glyph of Rebirth, Glyph of Wild Growth, and Glyph of Innervate. Minor Glyphs are a different story. They are very, very interchangeable. On my Druid, I use Glyph of Unburdened Rebirth, Glyph of Dash, and Glyph of Mark of the Wild. Now, you could use many different glyphs, but those are the ones I've chosen. Okay, let's talk spell priority. As a Restoration Druid, not much has changed from Wrath of the Lich King into Cataclysm. We're still using Rejuvenation and Wild Growth as our main source of output. The good thing, though, is that we have a new talent called Efflorescence. Efflorescence places a circle on the ground under the person you Swiftmend and heals for 60% of your Swiftmend healing over 7 seconds. This is an awesome heal because if you place it on the melee, it's sure enough to bounce off onto the tanks as well. The one spell that's being completely revamped is Lifebloom. Lifebloom previously could be placed on any amount of targets and could be stacked up to 3 times on X amount of targets. Now it can only be stacked on 1 target and it only stacks to 3, as it did before. The problem I see with this is that it's going to be a spell that we are required to keep track of. Basically in Burning Crusade, all I ever did was roll Lifeblooms on the tanks. I don't want to go back to that. Although I used to roll it on 3 to 4 tanks at a time, now we'll only have to roll it on 1. Now comes the question, how are we going to manage Lifebloom? Are we just going to let it tick down by itself and provide the burst healing at the end of the effect? Or are we going to refresh it with Nourish and give the other healers the benefit of the doubt with keeping the tanks alive and we just needing to roll HOTS? It all depends on the situation and how much damage the tank is taking. If, for example, we were on Sindragosa hard mode and the tank was taking a burst Frost Breath from Sindragosa, I would let Lifebloom tick down and do its burst healing effect. But if we were on Blood Queen, let's say, I would just keep the HOTS rolling and heal the raid. The last thing we need to discuss today is Tree of Life Form. Tree of Life Form in Burning Crusade was a daze effect. It really provided nothing but the daze. Oh, and the extra healing was nice too. But needless to say, it pissed me off. I was thankful when Wrath of the Lich King came around and they completely removed the daze. It made fights like Illidari Council, Muru, and Kil'jaeden complete cake compared to what it used to be and having to shapeshift out and waste mana on cat form. Cat form. But yeah, I mean, Tree of Life Form is changing, and it's going to be ever-changing. In Cataclysm, Tree of Life Form is a cooldown, not a mandatory form. It has a 3-minute cooldown, it increases your healing by 15%, increases your armor by 120%, and enhances the effect of Wild Growth, Lifebloom, and Regrowth. Lifebloom can be placed on any amount of targets in Tree of Life Form, so this is why I think Lifebloom will be able to be a bit more used in Tree of Life Form versus not. I think that Tree of Life Form is now more versatile. You can use it in both a PvE and PvP setting. Also, now you get to look like an Ent from Lord of the Rings. How cool is that? No, but in all honesty, I think that the 15% extra healing on a 3-minute cooldown is much better than the 6% healing you got all around. Okay, maybe not. I miss my 6% healing, but as long as Tree of Life Form looks cool, who am I to complain? Okay, let's talk statistics. As a Restoration Druid, your number 1 statistic that you need to max out is haste. That's it. It's just haste. From there, you want to use Intellect. Why Intellect? It increases your spell power, crit, and mana regen. That's pretty insane. Thank you, Blizzard. The next stat that is equally as cool as Intellect is spell power. Now, spell power is only being seen on weapons now, So you want a weapon that has lots and lots of it. Final stat is Spirit. Spirit is interesting because it increases your mana regen. But in BC, it increased your mana regen, and it also made Innervate super pro. In BC, we actually had a staff. Well, most cool Resto Druids had a Spirit staff for when they innervated themselves. We'd swap it out. Be pretty boss. Yeah. So those are your stat breakdowns. You want Intellect, Spell Power, and then Spirit. But haste before Intellect, okay? Haste. If you're wondering what the haste cap is, it is 1,016 haste. So, get haste cap. Yeah. Okay, now we're just going to talk add-ons, particularly one add-on. There's only one add-on I completely recommend for Restoration Druids, and that's Grid. Grid is easily customizable, super pretty, and just makes life so easy, especially if you get Grid status raid debuffs, Grid status hots, Grid status power word shield, and Grid status debuffs. This makes raiding super easy. I'll put a link in the description where you can pick up these add-ons because they are fantastic. Okay? That's just all I'm going to say. They're awesome. We mentioned this a little bit before about mouse over macros and timing with casting. Just be pro and go look at the Elitist Jerks thread for Resto Druids and how to time your heals and how to make the most of your healing, because it's really, really important, and I cannot stress this enough. I mean, you may just think, oh, you're a girl, you know nothing about video games, duh. But really, I was in one of the top 100 US guilds, and it's really, really important that you follow the guidelines that a lot of the better Resto Druids set. Not saying you're bad, just saying that there are people out there who know what they're doing, and you should listen to it. The last thing we're going to discuss today is professions for a Resto Druid. The two professions that you want to pick up are jewel crafting and blacksmithing. These are commonly known as the two best raiding professions in the world, so make sure that you use them well. For jewel crafting, you get an additional 42 intellect when you pick up Brilliant Dragon's Eye. For blacksmithing, you get an additional 40 int with the extra sockets that you get on both gloves and bracers. For this episode of Raid Chat, I did something a bit special. I was interviewing a few of my very good friends in Juggernaut. Juggernaut is a top world guild and they are currently ranked 27th overall. That's ridiculous. I'm so glad that I have a very good group of friends to play with and raid with. When Kirky was asked how she felt about healing in Cataclysm on her Druid, she responded with this. I feel a little unsure of our viability in raids. Because of the regen components to our first tier suit, I see us more developing into weak sauce supplementary tank healers, rolling Lifebloom for replenishment and regen procs, and keeping max hots on limited targets. Since we do not have as much HPS for limited targets as Pallies do, or provide an inspiration-like buff like priests and shamans, this is worrisome. Our raid healing capabilities are stunted yet again by OP disc shields, and our mastery contradicts blanketing hots on the raid. The next answer comes from Alphon, a holy paladin in Juggernaut on Leganis. Alphon also has a level 80 boomkin named Bainatoli. When he was asked this question, he responded, "It seems interesting. A healer with replenishment is nice, and they have Lifebloom now. I wonder how they use their mastery well with Druid being so pricey." I honestly have no idea, Chris. I can't answer that question for you, but naughty. Now for your questions. Immortal Mage 9 asked, "Great idea, Chrissy, but I have a question. How do you feel about the Justin Point system introduced in 4.0.1 and how it appeals to gearing?" I'll tell you this, in 4.0.1, I just reached level 80 on 2 characters, my Warrior and my Death Knight. Now this may seem a bit overwhelming to some of you, but I've gotten quite used to it, considering they were my 8th and 9th level 80s. I think it's pretty neat that Blizzard introduced this because it makes gearing equal. It completely changes the system around and makes it so that you don't have to deal with idiots not wanting to bring you to rage just because your gear is under par. I'm glad that they introduced this, but this also makes the game completely easy mode. I preferred it when we had to work for our gear, not get it handed to us. So it depends on what you're seeing it from as. Me leveling my level 2 or 2 of my level 80 characters and hitting level 80 on them both at the same time and wanting to gear them up as quickly as possible at the end of the game, that's fine. But right now, if going into Cataclysm I could get gear equally as easily, I would be pretty disappointed. The next question comes from Havadot. He asks, how should I go about finding a casual raiding guild for Cataclysm that's appropriate to my level of skill? Decent, but not great. And experience, some, but not a lot. Well, you can always check on WoW Progress and look at their needs. That's all I'm going to say for this video, because in the next few videos I'm going to be doing, it's going to be about guilds, how to get into them, what kind of guild you should be in, and how to write an application. So I'm not going to give away too much just yet. The next question comes from Jubalarel. He says, boobs! And fuck! Oh yes. Your opinion on how to organize a raiding guild to distribute responsibility so it's not all on the guild leader or one or two officers. Once again, I'm going to be making a video on how to run a guild, how to apply for guilds, how to find a guild that's right for you, and I'm not going to release too much information. My personal experience is you should divide the responsibility equally and have reliable people who you've known for a long, long time, officers with you in a guild. The next question comes from Anexo, and he says, what is your proudest accomplishment in WoW as an achievement? Boss kills. Best moment, whatever. Curious since you seem to be the best WoW player among WoW parody singers. Well, Anexo, this is actually going to sound incredibly dorky and kind of stupid considering I do have a lot of experience in the raiding environment. Probably getting my Kurenai rep up to Exalted and getting my Talbook on my Paladin, considering on a Horde server that has a 96% to 4% ratio Horde to Alliance, I was doing it as a human Paladin. I took over Hala twice by myself with the help of two very, very important people, Lena, aka Tanks, and her fiance Bowie. Thank you guys so much, I love you. And basically I stood in Hala for about 3 hours, killing myself on my death knight, killing my own death knight repeatedly on my pally because they're on separate accounts, and I got 100 shards from that, and then I continued to farm, because first I was getting the Dark War Talbook, so then I had to go farm the powder, and that took a good 8 or 9 hours with a few of my friends on the Horde side being dicks and trying to get my attention to go raid and talk to them and stuff. So they would fly out, gank me, come back, fly out, gank me, and it was very frustrating, but in that time I did get my Kurenai rep up to Exalted, as well as getting my Dark War Talbook, so I managed to pull off filling up the stables and getting my Dark War Talbook at the same time, so it was pretty neat. As dorky as that sounds. I also liked my 2 Frostworms on my Paladin and on my Priest. That was pretty neat as well. Next question comes from Sarfina, and she asks, Chrissy, how do you like the zone changes in Cataclysm? Well, Sarfina, I adore them. They have a new graphics engine or something. The graphics look amazing. They're completely phenomenal. I filmed Epic, most of Epic in Cataclysm beta, so that's why a lot of the shots turned out really well. And I'm glad that they're starting to put more thought and detail into their zones rather than just having like barren wastelands in Wrath of the Lich King. The best zone in Wrath of the Lich King was Crystal Song Forest. Unfortunately, it did not have a lot of lore content, so I was kind of let down, but I really, really enjoyed the zone there, and that was probably one of the most well thought out and prettiest girly zones in the game. So yeah. The final question comes from Nanania Wow, and she asks, what are you looking forward to most in Cataclysm, Chrissy? I answered this last video, but playing Goblin and Worgen is probably something that I'm going to be doing, like hardcore. I'm going to roll Worgen Druid. I'm going to play Shaman as a Goblin. And I'm actually really looking forward to making my Priest Gnome, or making a Gnome Priest. Whichever comes first, whichever I want to do first, because I really, really, really want to be a Gnome Priest. They're the cutest things in Wrathful Gladiator gear and Tier 10, 277 gear. Oh my god, they're adorable. So I'm looking forward to most being a Gnome Priest. That might come as a surprise to you. I'm also really looking forward to making my Paladin Blood Elf again, because playing her as a human kind of sucks. Yeah. So that's it for this video. Remember to leave your questions in the comment box below. Make sure you comment on my nice curly hair that I burnt my finger for, trying to do nice and pretty for you. And Yeah, the question comment of the day is going to be, why do you guys suck so much? But no, in reality, what is your proudest moment in WoW? What is your best achievement? What are you so proud of that it makes your heart just like burst with excitement? And let me know, and I will see you guys soon. Love you. See you next week on Raid Chat.